Hey, good Thursday morning, everybody. It's the 23rd of May, 2013. Yeah, later on today, me and my family are going to be going to my teenage nephew's high school graduation. So we're proud of him doing, finally achieving that. But anyway, you see the title down below. It says, it basically asks the question, you know, basically it asks the question, it has two questions. Why fans, why longtime fans don't like SDMI, Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, and it'll either say it in the top or it'll see it in the description box. Will Shaggy and Daphne happen in a new Scooby-Doo series? Now, to answer the first question, in my opinion, why fans, why some fans, if not longtime fans, dislike Scooby-Doo Mystery Incorporated, is pretty much when you look at it as a whole. It's I guess, as some fans would put it, it's kind of very convoluted. In other words, it doesn't make sense in certain areas, and it goes in directions and places that normally a franchise, a show based on a franchise like Scooby-Doo would not normally go. For example, season 2, episode 10, I think is what it is, called Night Terrors. Basically, one of the plot devices in Night Terrors is there's this smoke wood or terror smoke or terror gas or whatever you want to call it that basically causes hallucinations. And even though some fans have said the hallucination it causes for both Shaggy and Daphne, it was the WB's way of making fun of, or making a joke or something out of the Shaggy Daphne pairing that longtime fans are in favor of, that some of the episode was a little bit inappropriate. Like, Daphne, for example, was just seen wearing a bath towel and then a robe with the bath towel underneath. And then while she's in that robe with that bath towel, hallucinating because of the terror smoke, she kisses and lies down with Shaggy, who's also hallucinating because of the effect of the terror smoke. And it's things like that some fans do not like about SDMI. Now, to me, again, I'll give the WB credit for taking it in a direction that normally you wouldn't see them take any show like Scooby-Doo that's Scooby-Doo related. They wouldn't take it in. So I give them that credit. I applaud them for that, going in those directions. But again, why do longtime fans not like SDMI? And again, it's not just due to what I talked about used as examples from Night Terrors. It's mostly due to the fact that they feel a lot of the characteristics, a lot of the characteristics of the characters are out of character, or basically OOC. And when you look at that, you might say, well, yeah, they kind of have a point, because if this is supposed to be a traditional or based around a traditional Scooby-Doo show, supposed to be based around, supposed to be like that, then why in the world, are the characters acting so out of character? We don't get it. And that's one thing that's really bugged a lot of fans. Now, I know there's going to be fans that when they listen to this, they will defend SDMI and say they weren't out of character. And that might be true, but if you're a longtime fan, if you've grown up with the show, let's say you were a kid and you became a fan in 1969. Let's say you're about 8, 10 years old in 1969 when Scooby came out. and you've been a fan since then, and you're watching SDMI, you will either be one or two things. You will either be for it and say, hey, I like this is pretty cool, or you'll be against it because you'll be like, oh, wait a minute. I can say that, what's new's passable, what's new Scooby-Doo's passable, the movies that are coming out all the time for the past 13, 15 years, are passable, but this is not passable because this is not Scooby-Doo. I mean, think about it. A lot of longtime fans, even those that grew up with it from the very first episode of Where Are You to now, could come out and say that SDMI is not Scooby-Doo. That the movies themselves, like let's say Mask of the Blue Falcon, Big Top Scooby-Doo, Loch Ness and all that those are closer to the traditional Scooby-Doo than what we're getting with SDMI. And again, to me, I applaud WB for going in the direction they have, because it is different. It's a different take. And I applaud them for the twist that they put in the very final episode, thus making the entire series into a prequel. Because pretty much, let's face it, the entire series up until that point, no one would have considered it a prequel. And again, this is something that a lot of longtime fans have a problem with when it comes to SDMI. Is, like I said, they feel it's so convoluted and so full of plot twists and all that, and plot points, plot holes, that as soon as we get to the end, it's like, wait a minute. You made us go through 2 seasons of this show just to let us know at the very end of the final episode that it was nothing more than a prequel? That basically you made us go through the first episode, chapter 1, all the way to the final moments of this episode just to let us know it's a prequel? And, to me, again, I will give them credit for adding that twist in, because no one saw that coming. But again, there's a lot of fans that don't like that, because it's like, well, wait a minute. You just made us go through all that. You shoved certain couples or pairings down our throat constantly. And all because you want to, at the last moment, in the last few moments of this show, in its final episode, say, oh, by the way, it's before Where Are You? It's its prequel. And again, this is what upsets a lot of fans. It's like, well, wait a minute. You made us go through all that. You basically did all this BS, and all because you want to tell us right at the very last moment that it's a prequel? That is BS, WB. That is BS. And you guys should be ashamed of yourselves. That's how a lot of fans that have criticized the show feel about it. That's how they feel about it. And again, you can't really blame some fans feeling that way, but then again, you can't really blame fans for enjoying it, because when you look at SDMI, if you take the direct-to-video movies, put them in a different category, in their own loose self-contained continuities category, you take what's new and you put it in its own self-contained continuity category and all that. SDMI is mostly basically the Where Are You, even though it's a prequel to Where Are You. It's mostly the Where Are You and the beginning of the Scooby-Doo franchise for the new generation. That's what it is. It's the same, believe it or not, and I use this, I know I use this as an example all the time. It's kind of like with Sonic right now. In the comics, you got the game characters mostly being focused on in the comics as the heroes and all that. And yet this upsets a lot of longtime fans because you're regulating the Saturday morning characters and the characters that were established in the comic. You're regulating them to background or to obscurity in favor of the game characters. And the reason for this, just like with SDMI, the game characters being in the comics is for the new generation of fans to buy the comics. Well, the longtime fans will still have what they have. It's like, okay, you guys got to wait your turn right now. We're letting the new generation get a kick out of this, and then after that, we'll bring you guys back into the fold. That's basically how it is, and that, believe it or not, that's how SDMI is. SDMI is basically a new generation of Scooby-Doo. It's Scooby-Doo for a new generation. That's hard to believe, but it's true. Nice cold water. Needed that. But anyway, in my opinion, that's true. It's basically Scooby-Doo for a new generation. But I think when we more think about it, you take a look at the concept of how the episodes were presented. And I've mentioned this before, and everybody else has mentioned this before. The concept of the episodes, the way they were presented, were as chapters. It's basically one episode would be like chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and all that. And I even said this before that that the way it was also presented is the fact that they presented it to be more like a junior teen, if not teenage, novel. That's what it was, a junior teen or teenage romance drama-like novel. That's how they presented it as, in my personal opinion. But the more I thought about it, you got to think about how this show is being presented, how some of the plot points and the shippings are being presented. And the one influence or inspiration that came to my mind, was the Twilight series. That's right, Twilight. Now, you may disagree with that, but if you take a look at how it's presented in some ways and where some of the focus goes, like Fred, Daphne, Shaggy, Velma, the disbandment of the team, the breakup of Shaggy, Velma, Daphne, Fred, finding Daphne and Shaggy, even though they were infected by the hallucinations caused by the terror smoke, lying together on a cushion or on a couch, if you will, arm in arm. I mean, come on, folks. What influence do you think of a current teenage drama series that you know of? Exactly. It's basically, to me, some of what you see, if not most of what you see. Let's say probably about 50 to 60% of what you see. Okay, not 50 to 60, but let's say 40 to 50% of what you see is influenced by things like by teenage drama series and franchises like Twilight. And I don't think anybody can disagree with that. And again, when people look at that and look at how it was presented and how convoluted it was in their eyes and how many plot holes there were, and the fact that at the very last moment the creators, the writers, the producers decide to make it a prequel to the original series, to the original franchise run of 7 original series before Pup Named Scooby-Doo, then one could probably understand why they have a dislike for it. But let me know what you guys think. Do you agree with some of the criticism that this show gets? And do you agree with some of what I said about it having the similarities and inspirations that it got? Now, the next question that somebody brought up at the fan fiction forums was Shaggy and Daphne in a new Scooby-Doo series. Basically, the question is Shaggy and Daphne together as a couple in a new Scooby-Doo series, or even a movie, for that matter. Would it happen? Now, a lot of people would say that with WB being in charge, it's not going to happen. But one person pointed out that if the WB decided one day to say, hey, let's try Shaggy and Daphne, let's make them the main focus as a couple, how would it be done? How would it work? And a lot of people have come up with some great ideas. Personally, myself, I have to agree with what Believe It 1051 or 1050 said. He basically said that the best way to do it is to do a series whether you have Fred and Velma together or not in there. And basically this is how you do it. You slowly, gradually work towards it. You have them kind of give each other glimpses. You kind of tease it. You kind of, make the characters think, could this be, is it possible between us? Do things like that. And then have them kind of slowly give glances towards each other, whether they're looking straight at each other or one's looking down and quickly looking up, and things like that. Kind of slowly start doing it, kind of slowly build towards it. Because one thing they mentioned when Hanna-Barbera was doing the shows, especially more along the lines of the 83 to 86 run, that to them Shaggy and Daphne wasn't shoved in the faces of the fans like what you have with Fred and Daphne in the newer versions, mostly like with the SDMI, where you have it a lot. That basically Shaggy and Daphne's pairing was more subtle. It was more like it was there, but they didn't say like, oh, here's Shaggy and Daphne, we got to put them together romantically in each episode, we got to find a way, do. No, it was subtle. It's like you knew they were together. You knew they had attraction. You knew they were probably dating. But it was very subtle. It wasn't shoved in your face. Some people would point out that the most evidential episode that showcases this is the 11-minute cartoon short No Thanks, Masked Manx, where Daphne takes Shaggy and the dogs to her parents. Basically, as some would put it, takes Shaggy to meet her parents. So basically that's how Believe It 1050 looks at it. They said if they were to do it in a way that's, pays homage to the original 83-86 run. Kind of do it slowly, gradually, build it up to the point that maybe in one of the final episodes of, let's say, the first season, you have it become official. You have it become official, you have them become a pairing. And to me, I agree that would work. What I would add on is the fact that if you want to make someone like Fred and Velma popular with the fan base and make them likable, even more so, even with those that don't like them, have them be accepting of it. Actually have Fred, in my opinion, this is how I would do it, have Fred sit down with Daphne and be like, if you have feelings for Shaggy, I don't have a problem with it. Have them discuss the fact that there is a difference between them and that she is more suited to be with Daphne. And have the same thing with Velma sitting down with Shaggy. I know that sounds crazy, but to me it would make them more likable in the eyes of those that criticize Fred and Velma. But yeah, kind of make it work that way and then use the following season to kind of build on it a little bit. Kind of build and build and build. Kind of slowly build on the now relationship between the two. But don't, like as some people pointed out with SDMI, don't shove it into the foreground or into the forefront. Kind of subtly build it. Kind of have an episode here and there that's dedicated to the relationship and how it plays into, like, say, that mystery for that episode. and then kind of subtly put it back in the background and just subtly go from there. And again, I agree with what Believe It says. It would work out perfectly, and with what I just added, I think it would work out even better. They also mentioned that, you could do something like a new series, similar, if not a bit of a remake of, let's say, the new Scooby-Doo Scrappy-Doo show, aka New Scooby-Doo Mysteries, and that you could do something like that, and that one of the 11-minute episodes, if you will, could have Shaggy and Daphne going out together, and that going out together, dressed up, going out together, maybe going out to eat, and stuff like that. And while they're eating, have Scooby chase down Scrappy if you wanted to bring Scrappy back. If they wanted to bring Scrappy back, have him chase Scrappy down because Scrappy wants to stop what he thinks is a burglar, is a robbery. He wants to find the robber. He wants to track him down, and it goes through all over town, this and here and there, and it's like, whoa, what's going on, kind of deal. And to me, I really like that idea. I really like that concept because it would be a very traditional, as some person put it, traditional Scooby-Doo short, even for 11 minutes. I think that would work out fine. I mean, when I read Believe It, when I read what Believe It, because Believe It brought this up, and they said basically that this would be and some people agree this would be perfect. That would be a perfect episode idea. Here's the thing: the first thing that came to my mind was, I remember reading something online at a Tailspin site, and basically Baloo's going out with Rebecca to dinner. He basically cooks, or basically easy for me to say. Corley, talks Rebecca into going to dinner. And basically they go to dinner, and while they're at dinner, Kit and Molly basically sneak aboard the Sea Duck, and they're flying all over town. And Baloo's the only one that notices it. So, you kind of get the idea. But you kind of get the idea where that might go. But again, like I said, it kind of reminded me of that a little bit. And I agree, it would make a great episode if they wanted to remake a new version of New Scooby-Doo Mysteries. But, to me, would Shaggy and Daphne work as a pairing in a new Scooby-Doo series or even a movie? Yes. I agree they would. And I do agree that you need to gradually take the time in building up to it. I mean, there's been a lot of animated and live-action series that have done this. Comedic, dramatic, doesn't matter. They've taken the time and built up to this. I mean, I remember, despite how people may feel about the show, I remember watching X-Men Evolution. And even though a lot of fans that read the X-Men comics, watched the original 90s X-Men series, knew that Scott Summers, and Jean Grey were a couple, pretty much, X-Men Evolution kind of slowly built towards that situation. They kind of acknowledged and showcased that Scott and Jean, both being in high school still at the time, had feelings with each other, and they wanted to be with each other, but they didn't shove it right in our face just yet. They kind of slowly built up to it till finally they made it happen. So the WB, despite how people may feel about the company, they know how to do this. They know how to make the series happen. I mean, they didn't make X-Men Evolution, but they helped, broadcast it. So they sort of know how to slowly, gradually get up to that opportunity. But the question is, again, would it work for Shaggy and Daphne in a new Scooby-Doo series, a movie? And I agree it would. I really think it would if you take that gradual, slow effect. And this is why, again, I feel that Shaggy and Daphne are going to happen eventually. You can't, just, accept something and say, oh, well, we've had our opportunity and that's it. It's going to happen. It's going to happen down the line. We just don't know when. We just don't know where. So you got to accept that it's going to happen. And to me, honestly, if you really want to balance this out, here's what you do. You take Scooby and you bring in a female counterpart for him. That's right. You bring in a female counterpart for Scooby. You bring a female counterpart in for him, and thus it equals out. I mean, that is why when you think about SDMI, it kind of worked out towards the end, if you will, for Scooby, I guess you could say, being more acceptable of the possibility, whether we like it, the pairing or not, of Shaggy and Velma probably getting back together, because he had already experienced love and knows what it feels like when he met Nova. So, to me, if you really want to work this out to where it's like, okay, you can balance it out, bring in another female character. And you know who they should bring in? Bring in Scooby-Doo. I'll be honest with you. They need to bring that character back. And I think if you were to make a new series or make a movie that is based around the possible Shaggy-Daphne relationship, you want to balance things out, bring in a love interest for Scooby. I mean, they did it in Alien Invaders. Do it here. They could do it here with a new series or movie. And more importantly, bring in D. I mean, honestly, bring in D. Bring in Scooby-Doo. I mean, I know people might say, oh, that's kind of incense, isn't it? Not really. Not if you want to be realistic about it. Between animals, if you want to be realistic, it's not really that way. But again, bring D in, or a character like D, mostly D, because she hasn't been used except for once. And believe it or not, she actually made a cameo in Homeward Hound from What's New Scooby-Doo. But anyway, in my opinion, bring D in, and it would balance things out. It really would. But again, my personal opinion, would Shaggy and Daphne work out in a new series or movie? Yeah, especially if you take that slow, gradual path that Believe It and several others have mentioned. And I think Soren David, I think you would agree with that too. Overall, though, getting back to both questions to finish this off, again, and Soren David, I know you should agree with this. I know you will agree with this. The reason fans didn't like SDMI was because they felt it was too convoluted. They felt there was some plot holes. There was some inappropriate stuff. The characters were out of character. And that mostly, and I think this is how they realized a lot of it, it was basically a teenage drama or junior teenage drama novel come to animated form, come to animated life, and basically inspired by the likes of the Twilight franchise and so on. But also the reason that a lot of fans didn't like it wasn't not just because of what I mentioned, but also the fact that they waited to the last moments to say in the final episode to basically indicate everything, that all of what happened was that this entire series was nothing but more than a prequel, and that they're upset about that because basically you made it seem like it wasn't a sequel, it wasn't a prequel, but yet it turned out to be that. And as far as Shaggy and Daphne go, like I said, I agree with Believe It says. I know Soren David, you should agree with it, and I know a lot of people would agree with the slow, gradual concept and what they said. So, and to me, honestly, I think it would work out great. And again, like I said, you want to really make Fred and Velma likable in the eyes of a lot of fans. Have Fred sit down with Daphne and accept the fact that Daphne is in love or fallen in love with Shaggy, and have Velma do the same thing with Shaggy. And let them be accepting of it. So that's what I feel should be done. And also, if you want to balance it out to where, if you don't want to make Scooby jealous, like apparently they did in SDMI, then bring in a female counterpart for Scooby. and in my opinion, bring in a character, if not like Scooby-Doo, but indeed bring in Scooby-Doo. So that's how I feel how it should work, in my personal opinion. And that's really the two Scooby-Doo related questions that I wanted to give my own answer and opinion to. I'm sorry this video went a little long, but let me know what you guys think down below. Do you agree with what I said? I will provide a link down below to what the other fans are talking about, and let me know what you guys think down below, and I'll talk to you later. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. Peace out.